Yeah, we're back. We're live. Wow, exciting. Energy in America, actually, energy in the world. Is Batt Odgerel, and he's the member of the EPRINC organization, researcher there. And he joins us, as he has in the past, to discuss energy issues, not only in the US, but elsewhere. Thank you for coming on, Batt.
Thank you so much for having me.
So today we're going to talk about the Belt Road and the Chinese and their investments in energy around the world. It's a very interesting topic. We know they want to do a lot, and we know they're very ambitious about not only one Belt Road. There's many Belt Roads. Interesting, and people tend to think it follows the Silk Road, but that's only a small part of it. It's all over the place, and it's very impressive how much they are doing. I don't know if they're successful from a monetary point of view, but they're investing a ton of money and they're getting out of it not just the return on that investment, but they're getting influence. They're getting geopolitical influence everywhere because creditors have influence and partners have influence. So, Beck, can you talk about what they are doing in a general sense? And you have some really fabulous charts here that we should discuss.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, indeed, Belt and Road Initiative is the flagship initiative by China. Especially, it's the brainchild of the Chinese President Xi Jinping. And the reason why I wanted to discuss this important topic with you today is because President Xi Jinping mentioned about the greening of the Belt and Road Initiative and energy projects. Um, Started moving forward during his speech at the Leaders Summit on climate, hosted by President Joe Biden last week. And Belt and Road Initiative is, is a very important policy, and it's in light of the of China's carbon neutrality policy, which is aimed to be implemented before 2060. It's important for the Chinese stakeholders to make its energy projects, its Belt and Road projects green and less energy emission intensive in the near term.
Mhm.
So that's the general trend, but whether they can achieve their goal or at least their commitment is a big question mark. So I want to first talk a little bit about, if I may, about the China's key policy makers and then who are the most influential parties in the Belt and Road Initiative.
Oh, sure. I'd like to know. Yeah.
So it's important to understand the energy governance of China, and then it's a pretty, a vertically structured hierarchy where at the top sits President Xi Jinping, and then the State Council, which is the cabinet government of the country, and then there are key ministries like the planning agency, which plans 5 year, which you know prepares the 5 year plans and other important documents, and then the environmental ministry, and also SASAC, which is the parent organization, ministry level parent organization of all the major national energy and oil companies. And at the very bottom, like other countries, there are provincial and municipal governments that play very important roles in energy decision making. And in addition to those organizations, there are financial institutions, especially for China's energy, overseas energy cooperation, China Development Bank, China Export-Import Bank, and then some other, and then there are three policy state-owned policy banks in China that have a huge impact or huge influence over what is financed abroad.
So what they do in energy is going to be coordinated with what they do otherwise. For example, building a port, building some kind of industrial facility for the country involved, transportation, for example. And so these agencies, so these organizations within the Chinese government are going to be coordinating between the various elements, am I right? Various elements of the Belt Road Initiative. So if I have a port, I have transportation facility, I have some industrial, a dam, for example, or an energy installation. They're all going to be coordinated among these same agencies that you're talking about, right?
So yeah, so yeah, yeah, it's true that there's a general coordination between these organizations, and then there's an office for the Belt and Road Initiative. But at the end of the day, it boils down to these individual financial institutions and private energy companies, national oil companies that get to decide where they are, going, where they're investing in, because even though there is a general directive from the top, which is Xi Jinping, to expand networks and invest in infrastructure, um, these policy banks and then national energy champions are still entities that try to maximize their profits. And because of that, sometimes the Belt and Road Initiative appears even more predatory, and then you might have heard of stories like the Chinese side requires additional conditions and additional work from the host country, like collateral, or like land or other important national strategic assets as a collateral in exchange for the Chinese loans.
Mhm. Yeah, and I have a recollection, you can tell me if I'm right, that although China and its various agencies will control these projects, and they'll be the face of the negotiation with each country that they're dealing with in these projects, the money doesn't all come from China. There are investors, other banks and countries that are friendly to China, who fund their investments through the Belt Road Initiative. So it's not just Chinese dollars, if I can say dollars. It's not just Chinese money; it's money from other places as well.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you one question though, and that is there a policy toward renewables here? How do these Chinese organizations that are implementing the Belt Road for energy, are they looking only at the bottom line? Is it only the sharp pencil that determines the net profit? Or are they, at a level of, environmental concern as well, looking for green energy projects?
So yeah, just I want to first go back to your statement about um, who finances these projects. Just for the viewers, there are different funding mechanisms and organizations dedicated to BRI specific projects. And the biggest one is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which is, in my opinion, I think among the most uh, advanced and transparent of all Chinese stakeholders in the BRI initiative, because it tries to emulate its peers like Asian Development Bank and then other international financial institutions. And it has, board members who are from its member countries, and China has the largest share, but that's only 25 or 6% of the total votes. So other countries can have a say, but it also varies uh, depending on the institution. China, the policy banks I mentioned, they are more they are directly under the Chinese government's control. So yeah. And going back to your question on the green energy project, um, there are three main documents, short documents that express the Chinese interest in promoting green policies, and one takeaway I got by reading them is that China is, of course, under President Xi Jinping's, China dream. They want to green the world in China, and then also make some strides um, toward you know environmental and ecological well-beings. But at the same time, if you take a close look at those documents, um, China is also trying to build and promote its domestic companies specialized in these green energy technologies, and then support those companies, businesses overseas in these new emerging markets where um, the appetite for any type of energy is great, and is only growing. So and
Sure,
also
the countries involved would like to have any kind of energy because they don't have the energy they need now. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a carta blanca.
Yeah, energy poverty is a major challenge in countries like Pakistan, and then in the Southeast Asia, Central Asia. So and then there are a lot of opportunities for China, and one of the reasons why the BRI is an important platform for Chinese energy companies and energy financiers is because um, it can export its technologies, and then it can also uh, sorry create. So one of its main policies is to create industrial clusters based on these new technologies. So it will provide China with many opportunities to not just contribute to the its climate goals and international commitment, but also to support its domestic champions and companies.
Yeah. Well, but I get the sense of it is that the primary desire, the desire is to primarily have Chinese companies do the design, do the construction,
Mhm.
handle the project as contractors for the project. And I suppose that's a natural expectation. However, I'm wondering if China is also engaging or causing these projects to engage companies from other countries. Now, for example, if I'm a country that has participated in funding the project, maybe I should get some special treatment for my
Mhm.
contractors and my, the people, the companies that would build the project. What do
Yeah.
you think? Is that happening?
So yeah, from it's the projects under the Belt and Road Initiative are mostly done. They are negotiated behind closed doors or bilaterally. So the conditions and terms of these contracts are not very clear. But based on literature and then from public resources, it seems like the you having Chinese companies come and build the power plants, or at least create a joint venture with the host country's domestic um, companies, I think is a norm. Although there are instances where companies from a third country is doing the work, but in most cases it looks like that's the case. And
Chinese companies are doing it.
yeah, Chinese companies. But let's go take a step back and talk about this whole structure for those who don't know, who are not very familiar with the initiative. So the Belt and Road, we talked so much about the initiative that we haven't really talked about the basics. The Belt and Road Initiative was originally called One Belt, One Road Initiative, and then the belt is for the land based routes that were once the Silk Road centuries ago, and then the road is short for the 21st century maritime Silk Road. So there are two types of cooperation, one based on land mass and the other maritime, and then there are different corridors, and then each of the corridors has different has a different they're at the different levels of development. For example, the economic development corridor between Russia, Mongolia, and China, it's still in its early stage, and nothing much has been done. And then there are talks about building natural gas pipelines through Mongolia to export Russian natural gas to China, but that hasn't that's that is yet to materialize.
And that's the red, arrow in the center.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the one that goes right to the about China over Mongolia, connecting uh, with Russia. And
mhm.
then among these corridors, I would say for the energy sector, the most successful one is CPEC. I think, yeah. So that's China Pakistan economic corridor. And the reason why that's very important is because there are, according to the Belt and Road Initiative website, there have been 32 proposals ongoing and past energy projects, and over half of that, actually 18 of that, is only in Pakistan. And that gives you another idea that the Belt and Road is pretty much, the politics play a very important role in who gets financing, and then how many of them get.
When you say politics, you mean
Sorry,
geopolitics with
yeah,
the country.
geopolitics. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
geopolitics. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, international.
And so when you're talking numbers of projects now in this discussion, you're talking about energy projects or all projects?
So, I'm talking from the perspective of energy projects.
Okay.
So that brings us to the next slide.
Oh, wait, let me ask you some questions
Yeah.
about this. So why are some of these corridors red and some of them are blue and some of them are green? Does that mean it's just it's a different trading route or something else? What does it mean?
So the red ones are just land-based routes. They are part of the uh, the belt, the Silk
Mhm,
Road belt,
mhm,
and then
mhm,
the green ones are the maritime Silk Road, 21st century maritime Silk Road, or the road. And there's a lot happening in terms of transport and mobility in the maritime cooperation, especially because it connects Africa with China, and then even Latin America and Australia are connected with China through under this umbrella.
mhm.
And then the blue one at the very top is so-called Polar Silk Road, and Russia and China are in talks on this initiative, but I don't think there's been a lot of progress, and it's in short an effort by these two countries to work to cooperate in the Arctic.
Mhm. So some of these corridors are much more active than other ones.
Yeah, some
The
are
mo-
much more active. Yeah,
would you say that the maritime, that is the green corridors, are the most active
yeah.
in general?
So that's not for the energy sector, but for transport and the transport infrastructure and China's cooperation with emerging economies in other continents. So,
How do you study this, Beth? This is hard to study because it's not all that transparent. How do you find out what's going on? How do you identify the projects, the success of the projects that are planned in the future? Where do I look to learn more?
a good way to do is go to government websites, Chinese government websites and news websites, both in the West and in China. So there are a lot of resources online. So you can do simply just Google them and then get some good answers. And also, yeah, those public resources, and then also there are interesting reports, very insightful reports by think tanks. Um, I was looking at the Columbia University's report on the Belt and Road Initiative earlier today. So you can go to those
Mhm,
resources for
mhm.
additional information.
Okay, let's look at the second chart
Yeah.
you mentioned. That is also a very, very interesting chart. Can you tell us what it's
So
representing?
yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, the geopolitics and then China's relationship with individual countries, bilateral relationships with individual countries play have played an important role in the BRI project. And then you can see that West Asia region got the most money from the initiative, which is mainly because, as I said, most of these energy projects are in Pakistan, and then that region is followed by East Asia, which is the home region of China, and and yeah, and then Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, and North Africa, and Europe gets the least because it's the farthest from China. And North, there are some projects or project energy related projects in North America, but that number was extremely small, so that I didn't include that. And I don't quite understand what that might be, because it might be a project in Mexico or something like that. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, let's go to the next slide.
Let me add that I just did
Yeah,
a mental calculation, and the total of these investments on this chart is $300 billion.
yeah, around I think 270 or so.
Yeah. And these are all projects or just
billion,
energy
yeah.
projects?
So those are just energy related projects.
Okay, let's go to the third one.
And this is by fuel type. And you asked me about green energy and what's happening in terms of renewables and clean energy. This is my answer to that. Um, if you look at the chart, the green line is for renewables, and since 2013, since the inception of the Belt and Road Initiative, uh, there's been more funds directed into energy to renewables, whereas coal financing has been declining. But as of 2020, um, there are still a lot of coal-related projects, and then this chart doesn't include unspecified and power sector projects, much of many of which are coal-based power plants or transmission projects that support coal-based generation. So the takeaway from this chart is that yes, the number of renewable projects in the Belt and Road Initiative is growing, has been growing, but at the same time, China is still investing in a lot of coal power plants and then fossil fuel projects overseas.
I take it from this chart that when you hit the end of 2019, all of the lines are going down, some more than others. And I take it that is a reflection of China's change in policy during COVID. Am I right?
Yeah. So that's because of the pandemic, and then they are expected to grow to rebound this year or after the pandemic.
Yes, well, right, exactly. Well put. So let me ask you, this is a very interesting chart, maybe even the most interesting of the three, because it shows that gas has gone way down, even though you would expect gas to be, stable at least. It's popular in many places in the world. You'd expect hydro to be stable, and I guess it is stable here. It hasn't taken a dive the way other things. Coal is on the way down, and that would be smart policy on the part of the Chinese. Renewables, it hasn't gone up as much as you might hope. So my question to you, Batt, is based on this chart and what you know and what you've seen, which one of these things, or which combination of these things, are the fuel, the energy sources of the future for Belt Road?
So for Belt and Road, it's despite China's commitment to reduce coal consumption domestically. I think for the emerging countries surrounding China, it would be hard to reduce their coal consumption while trying to grow their economies. So coal, I think it, however, unpleasant it might sound, it would still play a major role in these emerging countries. And countries and also with assistance from assistance from developed countries, it will grow, or the consumption will be lower than previously anticipated or forecasted. And then in addition to that, gas will be supported, with the support of the Chinese government. Gas will play an important role. And then China is, unlike the United States and then European countries, it sees gas as clean energy, and it includes it in its green energy policies. So they will continue supporting natural gas and building more pipelines and more LNG or liquefied natural gas um, facilities to diversify its imports. At the same time, it will also continue investing in exploration and domestic production activities. And in addition to that, solar and wind will, of course, pick up. And there was a study on the potential of solar energy in the countries along the Belt and Road routes. And the study said there's a lot of potential solar potential, and the China and its partner countries should work on a super grid to to treat electricity cross
Electricity,
border.
right, beyond the
Yeah,
sources, but the electricity
yeah,
itself, yeah,
yeah.
across
Cross
borders.
borders, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that there's one red arrow here on the first chart, going from is it Xinjiang to looks like Germany
Yeah,
and right through Russia. And what's interesting about that is it would suggest that China and Russia are together on the gas pipeline,
yeah,
Gazprom, that is being developed right now between Russia and Germany, which is
yeah,
an important piece of European geopolitics.
yeah. It actually came online last year, but yeah, in late 2019. The first pipeline came online. It's on the eastern part of China, so China and Russia. So it doesn't have to go through Kazakhstan. It's directly between Russia and China. The second pipeline is that they're discussing right now will go through Mongolia if it gets implemented, if it gets built.
So I think that's a very important takeaway from this discussion. We're about out of time, but let me throw it at you. We're not just talking about in connection with these energy projects to develop the sources of energy, but we're in a given place. We're talking about projects that will deliver the sources of energy from one region, one country, one continent to another.
Mhm.
And we're also talking about grids that will deliver electrical power from one region to another, one country to another, across borders. And that is something, that is fairly remarkable, but with energy, it's entirely possible, isn't it?
With energy, yeah, as long as geopolitics and politics don't get in the way, it should be possible. And there has been discussions about super grid in East Asia between China, Mongolia, Russia, Korea, the two Koreas and Japan, but that never uh, materialized because of the differences between these countries, and then distrust, and then differences between these countries politically, economically, and then in other ways. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But that may change.
Mhm.
Everything changes. And one thing it doesn't change is the need of, all societies to have energy, and that need may increase in the future and may change the negotiating position of China and the other countries. Matt, this has really been a great discussion. I really appreciate your presentation on this and the information you provided to us. It's valuable to know about this. We all have to follow what's going on in Belt and Road. Thank you so much. Batt
Thank you
Odgerel
so much. Thank
from
you.
the Energy Policy Research in Washington. Aloha.